figure out how to make them merge together all the way. But this is Blythe Baptist Church. We do a Wednesday night in-depth Bible study. We just read God's Word and walk through it. We're in 2 Kings tonight, chapter 17, looking at one of the few good kings of both kingdoms. His name's Hezekiah. So you guys got your Bibles? 2:17. I think we got to like verse 5, but we're going to start back at 1. Does that work all right with you guys? Unless you guys got me going farther. A good spot? All right. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea the son of Elah became king over Israel and Samaria and reigned 9 years. He did evil in the sight of the Lord, only not as the kings of Israel who were before him. Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against him, and Hoshea became his servant and paid him a tribute. But the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hoshea, who had messengers to the king of Egypt, and had offered a tribute to the king of Assyria, and he had done year by year, so he offered no tribute to the king of Assyria as he had done year by year. So the king of Assyria shut him up, bound him up in prison. Then the king of Assyria invaded the whole land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Samaria, Assyria was captured. Putting my glasses on so I can actually read. Oh, much better. And carried Israel away into exile into Assyria and settled them in Hala and Habor on the river Gozan and the cities of the Medes. And that's where we stopped last week. But it's the end of Israel as a nation, and it will never be found again. Of the two divided kingdoms. What we consider Israel now is Jerusalem, Judea, and the two tribes that were with them. So I've got a quote I'll look at here just in a minute that shows the missing tribes and where they went and what happened. But it's sad, and we're going to get a commentary next on why the northern kingdom fell. Well, you guys already know why it fell. We've been looking at it for months. What was their problem? All right, either my hearing's bad. They weren't going to follow the Lord. They were not obedient. They were worshiping everything but God everywhere they shouldn't be and not serving Him. You're going to see here what all they did. It's everything God warned them when they came out of Egypt. Don't do this. The reason He told them to stay separate and not to intermarry. And it had nothing to do with color. It had all to do with religion. It had to do with them not watering down or infecting Judaism with paganism. So look at the commentary on verse 7. Now this came about because the sons of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, who had brought them up from the land of Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and they had feared other gods. That's their huge problem. And here's the next one. They walked in the custom of the nations whom the Lord had driven out before the sons of Israel, and the customs of the kings of Israel had introduced. Wouldn't it make sense to, if you're going to follow a God, not to follow the one that got whooped? It just makes sense to me. And Israel in their history saw time and time and time again where God defeated every other nation, and their gods couldn't stand up to them because they're not really gods. Even when they kidnapped the ark, if you remember, and they took him and they put him in the temple of Rimmon, and the next morning they get up and Rammon's bowed down at the ark, his statue, and they put it back up. And the next morning they get up and his hands and feet and his head are cut off, sitting there bowing down before the ark. The children of Israel passed those stories on. That's how we have our Old Testament, is they wrote it. They passed down the oral tradition and the written tradition. So you know that they knew what God had done. Why did these generations not trust him and choose for other gods. Thoughts? What would drive that? Why would you have the fear of being killed make you run to another god? For help? Why? Why are you going to him over your God? You might be getting in trouble by yours. You don't go see him because that won't be a good day. Or, and I think you see it in Gideon when he has his talk with the angel saying, where you been? Ain't seen you in a while. And it was that time of some people will turn away from him because they haven't seen or experienced, or so they're trying anything else. Most of them is because they didn't want his conditions and rules that went with it, which is a lot of the reason people today don't want to follow the Lord, because if he's really God, and if the Bible's really true, I have to submit. I have to do what he wants to do and trust him and follow him. And if he's really God and I have to do that, that's going to mess up all my fun. Hey people, I'll get right with God after I finish sowing these oats and doing what I want to do. Only problem with that is your oats may get cut off. It may be who knows when our last breath is. So let's look at what else they had wrong with them. Verse 9. The sons of Israel did things secretly which were not right against the Lord their God. Moreover, they built for themselves high places in all their towns, from watchtower to fortified city. They set for themselves sacred pillars and Asherim on every high hill and under every green tree. And they burned incense in all the high places, as the nations did, which the Lord had carried away to exile before them. And they did evil things, provoking the Lord. They served idols, concerning which the Lord had said to them, you shall not do this thing. Asherim is Asher poles. Notice that? Maypole, where they would actually go to worship. It was a phalanx. Is that the proper word? Not phalanx, that's a boat. The maypole represented the fertility goddess, and they would worship there. And they were doing everything except worshiping God the way God wanted to be. But look at this. Look at verse 13. Yet the Lord warned Israel and Judah through all of his prophets and every seer, saying, turn from your evil ways and keep my commandments, my statutes, according to all the law which I commanded your fathers, which I sent to you through my servant the prophets. However, they did not listen, but stiffened their neck like their fathers, who didn't believe in the Lord their God. And we talked about when all the kids were being killed during the siege. Remember we talked through how fair is that? Why did that happen? Remember that discussion? Going back to verse 13, they chose it, not him. He's warning them. Don't. Here's what's going to happen. Don't. Here's what's going to happen. Don't. Time and time and time again, he's saying, listen, I don't want this for you. It's not going to be good. And you see that where we're about to go, they're about to be starting to sacrifice their children to these idols. It's really became, you wouldn't think of God's chosen people acting like that. But it actually said, verse 14, they were stiff-necked like their fathers, who didn't believe in the Lord their God. And if you don't believe in the Lord your God, you're not going to obey or act like him. I guess that's the biggest reason. I think Christians don't want to get close to him sometimes because we're running away from home and we're afraid what's going to happen to us. But if I'm a lost person, if I don't know God from Tom's house cat, it makes sense to me that they're trying anything and everything. They don't believe the stories that were passed down from generation to generation because they may have been too supernatural or too extravagant, whatever. For whatever reasons, they don't have the faith that their fathers did. Or they actually have the faith their fathers did, just not the beginning. Actually, that doesn't work either, because if you remember when they left Egypt, how many of them wanted to go back? A whole bunch. When Moses is up on the mountain talking with God, getting the 10 Commandments, what do? Made an idol. And even Aaron, the priest, Moses' brother, made an idol. So it's nothing new, but you think after seeing God do what he did, after seeing the plagues, after seeing the Red Sea parted, after seeing the sea come back together and drowned all of Pharaoh's army, you would think somewhere along the way, God's proved himself. Somewhere along the way, he said, hey, y'all, it's me. Last night, we watched The Last Ride. Have you guys seen that yet? It's Angel Studios. It is phenomenal, but it's one of those same kind of things. I haven't seen God do much yet until you do, and God shows up. And I love the story. Is one of the two buddies is trying to keep convincing him that God's there, and it's a really good story. And a good bull riding, if you like bull riding. It's a great bull riding movie. I can do some bull riding. So, yep. How often do we forget what he's done in our life? Matter of fact, we don't just forget what he's done in our life. We go through the very same thing twice sometimes and forget how he got us through it the first time, how he provided for us. That's why he said to them to set up Ebenezer's, memory stones, stones of remembrance, a nation's dictionary. When God did something big, they set up, and it usually became a place where they would make sacrifice, put up a pillar, remembering what God had done. Bethel, where they keep showing up, was one of the most holy places because that's where Abraham and God went face to face. And it was one of those things. Look at verse 15. They rejected his statutes and his covenants, which he made with their fathers, and his warnings, which he warned them. So God's warning. They don't mind. They don't care. And they followed vanity, became vain, and they went after the nations which surrounded them, concerning which the Lord had commanded them to not to do like them. They forsook all the commandments of the Lord their God, and made for themselves molten images, even 2 calves, made an Asherah, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served Baal. They made their sons and their daughters pass through the fire. That doesn't mean they were just purifying them. They killed them. It was sacrifice. They practiced divination and enchantments and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord, provoking him. So the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them from his sight, and none was left except the tribe of Judah. Also, Judah didn't keep the commandments of the Lord, but walked in the customs which Israel had introduced. And the Lord rejected all the descendants of Israel and afflicted them and gave them into the hand of plunderers until he had cast them out of his sight. It's a different translation. Which verse? All right, what do you have? You have a different translation of some from forces of heaven. Mine has hosts of heaven. Yeah, the end of 16. After they cast images of themselves, even two calves made an Asher pole, worshipped all the heavenly hosts. So they started worshiping. They started doing their horoscopes, pretty much. Yeah, worshiping the stars, which in that time period they did a lot. Could be. I know Baal worship is where we get Baal Zebub. So they were worshiping everything except for God. Just like now, there's multiple religions who worship created things instead of the one who created them. There are countries who people are starving, yet they're letting cows walk around because they're considered sacred and was one of their ancestors, and you're not allowed to kill it or eat it. Rats in the temples because they're somebody's uncle.
Israel, look what happened. They believed they didn't worship.
They feared, at least. Yep. And I think they noticed when Israel quit having that relationship. Yeah. Look at verse 21. When he had torn Israel from the house of David, they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. Then Jeroboam drove Israel away from following the Lord and made them commit a great sin. And the sons of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did, and they didn't depart from them until the Lord removed Israel from his sight. And he spoke through all of his servants, the prophets. So Israel was carried away into exile from their own land to Assyria to this day. I was going through a commentary, and it had a quote by Russell Dilday. I'm going, no way. He was my seminary president that we got to hang out and talk, and he's just a normal guy, but his quote was phenomenal. I'm going, wow, I didn't know you were this smart. I would have hung out with you more and asked you a lot more questions. He said, the 10 tribes of the north disappeared after this, never to be heard from again. These 10 lost tribes of Israel have been a mystery through the years. People have tried to find them in Jewish communities of southern Arabia, various tribes in India, China, and Turkey, and Kashmir, and Afghanistan, and the American Indians, but not a trace remains. Verse 23 says the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, and only Judah remained. And in verse 19, the writer inserts a parenthetical reminder that within 160 years, Judah also would follow the same tragic pattern. He went on to say that he shares the most important thing historians are pointing out is the biblical reasons for God's judgment, and he proves his case. He said, the important message of the post-mortem inquiry. I love that. They did a autopsy on the nation. The important message of the post-mortem inquiry into the spiritual disease that killed the kingdom, because that message becomes a warning for all the nations. In this passage, we're warning against the danger of ingratitude, the danger of stiff-necked resistance to the word of God, the danger of yielding to the unhealthy influences of godless people around us, the folly of secret transgressions, the impotence of cheap, convenient religion, the danger of pride, the peril of provoking God to anger, the hazards of idolatry, which is still practiced in many diverse forms today, and the warning of inevitable judgment. He said, but one of the most vivid lessons in this passage is in verse 15. New King James translates the phrase, they followed idols and became idolaters. But the original Hebrew says, they worshipped emptiness and became empty. And here the word Hebel meaning error, delusion, or vanity. The idea is they became like the gods they worshipped. They bowed down to nothingness and became nothing. That's a pretty great observation. Because you do. Now, as far as after they're going into exile, the way exile worked with the Assyrians and with the Babylonians is you would, Persians as well, you would go in and take over a country. You would snatch the people out of it, and you would shove them into other countries you took over and spread them out. You would take people from those other nations, and you would come and fill them in there with the few that you left, and no one had any national identity anymore because they were all mixed and messed up. This is why the Jews hated the Samaritans. The capital of the northern kingdom was Samaria. And as other groups, we're going to see here in a second, move into there, that word again. Intermarried influence, it's what they did to their religion. They changed it. There's only one word that does describe what they did, and it's in my commentaries. Julie says you can't use it, you can't say it, you can't tell them. What? Pervert is a good word for it. Let's use pervert. It's more they made it illegitimate. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. You guys don't need to guess the word. Julie says, you can't even give them stuff like that. They're going to keep thinking, you guys fill in the blanks with worse words than I may be thinking. And that's usually the truth of the way it happens. That's why I didn't do my fill in the blanks the other week. I was going to put blank happens, but I knew most of you would get it wrong. So they repopulated the land, and they made them combine and intermarry. So the Samaritans, the northern kingdoms, were influenced in their religion, and they combined them. They just didn't switch. They morphed it. They melded it. They took a little bit of each, what they want. What they, I like this here. I'm like this here. I like this here. I know several denominations that do that now. What? Forged it. Yeah. They took the pizza, put the toppings, and shook it up. And here's what we got. And they just mixed. Look what I'll let you read it. 24. The king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cuthah and from Ava and from Hamath and from Sepharvaim and settled them in the cities of Samaria in place of the sons of Israel. So they possessed Samaria and lived in its cities. No promised land anymore. It's changed. Well, it is still promised land. It's just no promises are happening. At the beginning of their living there, they didn't fear the Lord. Therefore, the Lord sent lions among them, which killed some of them, because where are they living? The promised land belongs to God, and I don't care if you got transplanted here or not, my place, my rules. Well, watch what they do. So they spoke to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations whom you've carried away into exile in the cities of Samaria do not know the customs of the God of the land, little g. So he has sent lions among them, and behold, they kill them because they do not know the customs of the God of the land. Then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, take there one of the priests whom you carried away into exile, let him go and live there, and let him teach them the custom of the God of the land. So one of the priests whom they had carried away into exile from Samaria came and lived at Bethel and taught them how they should fear the Lord. Yes? No. Remember the priests of Israel that we just got thrown into captivity from because they wouldn't listen to the prophets, they wouldn't obey God. They're getting tutored by pagan priests. How well do you think it's going to go? But every nation still made gods of its own, put them in the houses of the high places which the people of Samaria had made, and every nation in their cities which they lived. And the men of Babylon made Succoth-Benoth, the men of Cuth made Nergal, the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Avites made Nibhaz, weird god names, and Tartak. That sounds like a Thundar the Barbarian kind of character. The Sepharvites burned their children in the fire of Adramelech and Amalek, the gods of the Sepharvaim. So, if the priest were really a priest of Yahweh, what would have he told them about the rules of the God of this place? He's jealous, and you can't have what? Other gods. So because of what we see them doing, we know that the priest who they took with them wasn't. But watch verse 32. Second word in my translation is very, very telling. They also feared the Lord and appointed from among themselves priests of the high place from among themselves, who acted for them in the house of the high places. They feared the Lord and served their own gods according to the custom of the nations from whom they had been carried away into exile. Might as well be Hindu. I was at a Hindu temple in LA and meeting with the clergy. And as we're sitting there talking to them, I'm looking at the pictures of all their gods, because they've got all their gods, not color photos, but. And I'm looking, they got a picture of Jesus. So I go to the priesty kind of guy. I said, hey, you got a picture of Jesus. What's the deal? I thought you were Hindu. They said, oh yeah, we worship him too. And they got like 500 gods lined up. And it reminded me of a buddy of mine in high school when we would go mess with the satanic graveyard, try to chase Satanists just for fun. Because it was a satanic graveyard and we were more scaring people in the dark was what it was. He says, I'm covered. And he pulled open his shirt. He had a cross on his necklace. He had the Star of David. He had a crescent. He had all kinds of stuff written across his chest, anything he found on the history books that will get you safe from voodoo. He said, whatever it is, I'm covered. Same thing. Yeah. Those were fun days. And it used to be only the Universalist church believed that. And now it's going to multiple different denominations. And maybe not the whole denominations, but many churches that we saw it on Oprah. Oprah had Joel Osteen, who said, well, that's their belief in it. I can't judge whether they're going to go or not because they're sincere. I'm going, according to your Bible, you can. People don't like the exclusivity of the cross. Yeah. Something close. I don't have an exact translation or quote of it. What? Yeah. He didn't. And then he's doubled down on again lately, the same kind of thing. The last pope was okay with everybody getting their own way. I like this new pope. He's much more closer to Scripture. But it doesn't have to be any certain denomination. People, when we want to combine the world with God's command and words, it's wrong. And that's why they hated the Samaritans so badly, because they took a little bit of Judaism and mixed it with everything else you could find. So they said, don't. What verse was that on? 34? To this day they do according to their earlier customs. They don't fear the Lord, nor do they follow their statutes or their ordinance or the law or the commandments which the Lord commanded the sons of Jacob, whom he named Israel, with whom the Lord made a covenant and commanded them, saying, you shall not fear other gods, nor bow down yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. But the Lord who brought you up from the land of Egypt with great power, with an outstretched arm, him you shall fear. And to him you shall bow yourselves down. To him you shall sacrifice. The statutes and ordinances and the law of the commandment which he wrote for you, you shall observe to do forever. You shall not fear the other gods. The covenant that I have made with you, you shall not forget, nor shall you fear other gods. But the Lord your God you shall fear, and he will deliver you from the hand of all your enemies. Underline that verse. It's one that every king that we've seen up to this point forgot, apart from David and maybe Solomon. What did it say? You can read it. Oh, why was it that, what was one of the big downfalls, which we're going to see in Hezekiah as well, of these later kings who don't have a relationship with God when the enemy comes? They were defeated, or, that's two options. Yep. They're trusting man for their salvation instead of God. And you see it time and time again, but this verse said, if you'll just stay with me, I'll deliver you from which of your enemies? All. However, they didn't listen, but they did according to their earlier customs. So while these nations feared the Lord, they also served their idols, their children, and likewise their grandchildren, their fathers did. So they do to this day. Yeah, to this day. What are some idols people mix with their Christianity now and think it's okay? Yes.
In 24, it says the king of Syria brought all these people from different countries,
Yep.
put them all together. And in 26, it says it was reported to the king of Assyria. So the king of Assyria gave the order, have one of the priests sit there and teach our God, right?
Yep.
So they know. And yet, right then, 29, they just, they're like, they take it no attention. Right back,
Nope.
the whole place is nuts again.
Yep.
Who's the king? He seemed like he's a good guy. Let's say, hey, if you want to worship Yahweh or whoever, yeah, go ahead. It's a priest. Go ahead.
They had regional gods. Every nation had their own god, and they knew that those gods were responsible. If you think about it, most of the pagan religions, they were worshiping something that they needed. There were fertility gods, because if you don't have enough kids, you don't have enough warriors, you don't have enough workers. They worshipped the god of thunder or lightning or rain. They worship the sun. They worship the moon. As they're doing these, it's a lot of stuff they thought they needed. But when he deported the Israelites out and brought the other three groups in, those groups said, hey, we're from a different region with a different God. He don't live here. What do we need to do to appease this one? We're just going to reach out to our other one too. But lions are horrible, I think. And one of them was the rock.
Right, and then 3 gods below that.
40,000.
How would you ever know if somebody was telling you? I better remember.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Earth, wind, water, fire, fertility.
You even see it in some with the saints. They will deify the saint in some cultures and countries. We were in Macedonia, and they may not know anything about Jesus at the church, but they put their money because this saint, he's going to take care of me and do it if I pay him. And it was one of the weirdest things when we went to Macedonia to realize that they have these beautiful cathedrals and all these great places that are religious heritage, but the people don't have a clue what it means like this. And so they find themselves worshiping these saints over the one the saint worshipped. Mary, I don't think they will say they don't worship Mary as much as they respect, like her, and ask her to take care of them and pray for them. Anybody Catholic background? Anybody? Mm-hmm. And I won't say all of them. And it comes from just a faulty reading of the word, elevating people over God.
I have to tell my.
And it really goes back to what was pre-Jesus, before the curtain got torn. That you're not holy enough or smart enough to go on your own. You need somebody to go for you. The reason they pray to the other saints is, I had a great Catholic friend when we were in Arkansas, who they said, or she said, I said, why do you pray to Mary? She said, because that's Jesus' mama. He's going to do what she tells him. And that was her firm belief. It wasn't that she was God, didn't think she was God. She just could tell him what to do because that's his mama. And that was, she was dead. She was funny laughing, talking about it, but she believed it. Yeah, she ain't telling Jesus what to do. Yeah. It's also proved when Mary and the brothers tried to come and stop him from speaking, and they said, hey, your mother and brothers at the door. He said, my mother and brothers, those who do what I say, who believe. And before you throw bricks, how many of us have lost a kid now and then? Maybe not for a couple of days, but I used to get lost all the time when my mom would take me to the store. Because the coolest thing, if you had a coat rack or a clothes rack that had a circle, you could hide in it and you could grab people and scare them. And one day I was in it and they left. Rude. Yeah, they said they couldn't find me. Quick, he's in there. Go. All right, look at chapter 18. Now we're switching back to the southern kingdom. That's the end of the northern kingdom. They'll still be referenced here and there. Now it came about in the 3rd year of Hoshea, the son of Elah, king of Israel, that Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, became king. They believe it's 715 BC, and he's going to reign until 687. Some people want to argue that it was 724. I don't care. It's not that life-shattering to me. I think 715 works better than the 724 just because of the way some of the battles he talked about. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah. He did right in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father David had done. He removed the high places and broke down the sacred pillars, cut down the Asherah. He also broke into pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made. If you remember that from Numbers 21, when the snakes bit him, he had to make a snake, put it up on a pole. If you looked at it, you would be healed. If not, you're going to die from your snake bite. They call that snake Nehushtan. And you see it at every hospital. It's the symbol of the snake that you see. Yep, that represented healing. Goes all the way back to Moses. Do what? We're going to come up to him. He's coming up still. Josiah. Is that his name? Josiah? Yeah. Oh, I could. I'd had fun as king at 25. 13? Probably not. For until those days, the sons of Israel burned incense to it, and it was called Nehushtan. And what God had made for them to represent his healing of what they're being afflicted by, they made into an idol. So he crushed it too. He trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel, so that after him there were none like him among the kings of Judah, nor among those who were before him, for he clung to the Lord. I love the word clung, to grasp, to tackle, to be the one holding on the leg. As remember your kids when you're dragging them across the floor because they won't let go. That's what he was doing with God. Where's my clung? Clung. 6, thanks. For he clung to the Lord, he did not depart from following him, but kept his commandments, which the Lord had commanded Moses. And the Lord was with him wherever he went, he prospered. And he rebelled against the king of Assyria. And did not serve him. He defeated the Philistines as far as Gaza and its territory, from the watchtower to the fortified cities. Now, the changes that he made, getting rid of all these things in Jerusalem and in Judah, is going to make it possible for that centralized worship again to happen in Jerusalem, making those sacrifices at the temple. And his confidence in God and his commitments to the law, you see it impact not just his private life, but his public life. He made rules and laws going, we're going to do it this way because I'm king. Just like now, I wish, who's the head of Israel now, Netanyahu? He's the head honcho. What if he went back to this and went biblical on him and blew up the Dome of the Rock, got rid of it? You're not worshiping anything else but Yahweh here. What would the world say? He'd definitely be at the Hague. They would be charging him with something, crimes to humanity or whatever. War crimes. But it's actually what they should do if they really are following in Judaism. To restore the temple is their job, and to take down those high places, because the Dome of the Rock is a high place. It's a false place of worship. All they have left is the Wailing Wall. he just put himself in a pickle. Did you hear it? What did he do? Went against the king of Assyria. So now we have a conundrum whether or not Hezekiah can serve the Lord, disobey Assyria, and survive. I love your commentary. Which study Bible is it? Life Recovered. I love it. That's a great commentary. What is he going to do if he rebels against the king of Assyria? What's the king of Assyria going to do? Probably fight. Probably come kill him. Well, he's about to get forced to discover the answer to this question. Now, in the 4th year of King Hezekiah, verse 9, which was the 7th year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. At the end of 3 years, so I told you they'd be mentioned again, they captured it. In the 6th year of Hezekiah, which was the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Israel, Samaria was captured. The king of Assyria carried Israel away into exile in Assyria and put them in Hala and Habor, the river of Gozan, in the cities of the Medes, because they didn't obey the voice of the Lord their God, but transgressed his covenant, even all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded, and they would neither listen nor do it. Now in the 14th year of Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against the fortified cities of Judah and seized them. Why? Said a minute ago, he rebelled. He is no longer a vassal king. He said, we're not going to give you any more money from our coffers. Verse 14, then Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria at Lachish, saying, I've done wrong. Withdraw from me whatever you impose on me, I will bear. Come on, we had a good king going. What did he just do? He forgot the promise of 39, that if you'll just obey me, which enemies will I rescue you from? All of them. He's doing what we often do. He loves the Lord, he's following the Lord, but when things get tight, I'd rather just take care of it myself real quick. Let's see how good that goes. What verse was that? Hezekiah, king of Judah, said, I've done wrong. Withdraw from me. Whatever you impose, I will bear. So the king of Assyria required Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver, 30 talents of gold. How much is that if you got your study Bibles open? 11 tons of silver and a ton of gold. That's a ton. Exactly. Hezekiah gave him all the silver which was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasuries of the king's house. And at that time, Hezekiah cut off the gold from the doors of the temple of the Lord and from the doorposts which Hezekiah, king of Judah, had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria. Doggone him. He was doing so good. Multiple ways. I'll be reading this in my office going, oh man, come on, go back to your early days. So he emptied their treasuries. Even though he loved the Lord, he robbed the whole house of God, took everything out of it, and he even cut the gold off the doors and the hinges. But I will say he was the one that put them on there and had that done. But still, he's robbing God to pay his enemy who God said, if you just stick with me, I would have defeated and looked out for you. Here's how it goes. Then the king of Assyria sent Tartan and Rabsaris and Shekah from Lachish to King Hezekiah with a large army to Jerusalem. So they went up and came to Jerusalem, and when they went up, they came and stood by the conduit of the upper pool, which is on the highway of the fuller's field. Do you realize what just happened in that verse? He invaded anyway. They just gave him all the loot, and he's like, thanks, get him. So now they're poor and about to get beat up. So much for doing it our way. But the reason I like him as a king is the way he handles it. Now, wait, before I go there, I wrote something down, stuck out. Why do you think he went ahead and attacked him? He's here, I can do what I want. But what kind of vassal was he? Did he already prove himself to be? A godly man, but if you're the king, he just said, bye. He can't be trusted as a vassal. When he thinks he's big enough or has enough, he's going to cut bait again. So he says, I'll take the money, and I'll go get rid of you, and I'll put somebody else here like I do everywhere else I go. Verse 18, when they called to the king of Elkim, the son of Hezekiah, who was over the household, and Shibna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph the recorder, came out to them. So his three representatives go out to meet with these three representatives of Assyria. He didn't go out himself, he sent them. Then Rabshakeh said to them, say now to Hezekiah, thus says the great king, the king of Assyria, what is this confidence you have? You say, but they're only empty words, I have counsel and strength for war. Now on whom do you rely that you have rebelled against me? Now behold, if you rely on the staff of the crushed reed, which is Egypt, even on Egypt, which if a man leans, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to all who rely on him. But if you say to me, we trust in the Lord our God, is it not he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah has taken away? And has said to Judah and to Jerusalem, you shall worship before this altar in Jerusalem? Now therefore, come make a bargain with my master, the king of Assyria, and I will give you 2,000 horses if you're able to, on your part, to set riders on them. Then you can repulse one official of the least of my master's servants and rely on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen. Have I now come up with the Lord's approval against this place to destroy it? The Lord said to me, go up against this land and destroy it. Then Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and Shebna and Joah said to Rabshakeh, speak now to your servants in Aramaic, for we understand it, and we do not speak and do not speak with us in Judean in the hearing of the people who are on the wall. You catch that? Give it to us in code because they don't speak code and you're going to scare everybody. A good negotiator or person coming to ravage your land, he wants to inflict terror, fear, propaganda. So he doesn't do what they asked. But Rabshakeh said to them, has my master sent me only to your master and to you to speak these words and not to the men who sit on the wall, doomed to eat their own dung and drink their own urine with you? He's not speaking in Aramaic. Then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in Judean, saying, hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus says the king, do not let Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you from my hand. Nor let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, the Lord will surely deliver us, and the city will not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Don't listen to Hezekiah, for thus says the king of Assyria, make your peace with me and come out to me, and eat at each his vine and each his fig tree, and drink of the waters of his own cistern. It means if you surrender, I'll let you stay. Until I come and take you away to the land like your own land. So you can stay until I transplant you. A land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and honey, that you may live and not die. But do not listen to Hezekiah when he misleads you, saying, the Lord will deliver us. Has any one of the gods of the nations delivered his land from the hand of the king of Assyria? Get a little cocky. Where are the gods of Hamath and Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Iva? Have they delivered Samaria from my hand? Who among all the gods of the land have delivered their land from my hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem from my hand? That's a great, big old, bold boast. Especially to say in Jerusalem within the hearing of God. But the people were silent and did not answer him a word, for the king's commandment was, don't answer him. Then Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph the recorder, came to Hezekiah with their clothes torn, and they told him the words of Rabshakeh. And we're at 19. Big boast. It was a taunt. It was also demoralizing the troops and trying to get them to surrender or jump ship.
Just to see it out.
Mm-hmm.
Spread like wildfire. Place that's full of calamity. We've already lost everything that we have. Like, we've already lost it. It's his. Now we're here. King couldn't deliver us from that. What if we can live? And they will move us to a better place. He'll prosper us for us.
Yep.
Again, they're putting faith in.
It's not a new tactic, and it still gets used today. During Vietnam, what was her name that was on the radio, all the radio stations? Tokyo Rose. Demoralizing them, trying to get them to come over to not. Same thing. That's what they're doing. Spoiler alert. Hezekiah has to make a choice now. You can read ahead in 19 and 20 and see what he does, and then see what God does. Anything else stick out to you? Questions, thoughts, ponderings, conundrums? All right. Put a fork in us. Bye, people online. Let's pray us out. How do I stop this?